You get a guy to go to New England that can be the number one guy, be a physical receiver in the red zone, and can get third downs. It just doesn't seem fair.
No, it doesn't. And this was arguably a top 3 offense in the NFL last year in the first year with Josh McDaniels. And now here we go into year 2. Everybody else knows the offense. Oh, and we add A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs, right, to a crowded and talented receiver room that played well last year. So, again, you said it, A.J. Brown is a freight train. There's just not many guys that look like him on the outside, right, and that can play, and it just are a one-on-one absolute nightmare. And so I look for this offense to kind of continue to ascend. I know their schedule is going to be much more difficult this year than it was a year ago, but this is still going to be a really good football team, especially offensively. They have so much firepower. I think Josh McDaniels is one of the best offensive minds in football. And again, so I look for Drake May to have another big year offensively. Can they take that next step up front from an offensive line standpoint, protect him a little bit? Obviously takes too many hits, certainly last year. That'll be a big question to see Will Campbell and some of those young players heading into year 2 of the system. So I like the additions, man. Anytime you could add playmakers like that on the outside, I think this is going to be really phenomenal for that young man right there.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm fired up to see the growth of Drake May in year 2 with Josh McDaniels, right? I mean, in fact, that they were kind of felt like it was ahead of schedule, right? When Mike Vrabel came in and Josh and Drake all got together, find their way into a Super Bowl. So the encore will be fun here going into 2026. Mike Garafolo, thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Of course, MJD and Alex will be back with you guys from Santa Clara here as we continue down the road on Inside Training Camp Live. Caleb Downs, one of the most exciting rookies on the defensive side of the ball in this class, suiting up for Christian Parker's defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Back with DJ from Oxnard next. Big D, that coming up. You'll hear from A.J. Brown, his first training camp as a New England Patriot, along with Khalil Mack. Excited for those conversations. Welcome back. Inside Training Camp Live, rolling on here from our NFL Network studios. I am Rhett Lewis, excited to be back here with you in what is one of the biggest weeks of the training camp schedule. We get our first real preseason action this week. Hall of Fame game on Thursday between the Panthers and the Cardinals, and the pads are going on this week for so many more teams. A couple of teams we just mentioned, Niners, Ravens, and the first day of pads in Oxnard, California with the Dallas Cowboys, where Daniel Jeremiah is hanging out for us watching practice today. And that's where we head right now to kick off this hour of ITC Live. DJ, we kind of touched on it a little bit with Caleb Downs, but he was not the only first-round pick for the Dallas Cowboys this year, and not the only one on the defensive side of the ball. Malachi Lawrence was kind of a fast riser at the end of the draft process. What kind of role do you think he can carve out amongst some really good and talented veterans like Rashawn Gary, Quinnen Williams, and Kenny Clark and company?
Well, I'm excited to see him out here today. Put the pads on, so we'll get a chance to really not only see how they're using them, but how they like the physicality that comes along with it, going up against a really good Cowboys offensive line. So Malachi Lawrence, in my opinion, I think early on you're looking at him in some sub situations, some pass rush situations, let him just go hunt the quarterback, and then they kind of see his role grow as the season goes along. Caleb Downs is going to be right in the middle of everything. You know, the versatility to be able to move him around, not only the athleticism, but the intelligence, the communication skills that he possesses. It's going to be fun to watch how he's deployed. And I'll even throw a third one in there for this defense on the rookie group, and that's Jayshon Barham out of Michigan. If you think about his skill set, remember, off the ball, and then they put him on the ball, can do a lot of different things there. And you look at Christian Parker, the defensive coordinator, comes from Philadelphia. Zach Bond, a very similar skill set. And think about how great he's been for that Eagles defense under Vic Fangio. I'm curious to see these guys, not only see how athletic they are and how they move, Rhett, but how they're being deployed in this Christian Parker scheme.
Hey, look, we're right on track now. I was going to ask you about Barham. Excited to kind of see, again, where he ends up getting utilized. But also, you know, they made a concerted effort to go out and get D. Winters, the off-ball linebacker from the San Francisco 49ers, who really stepped up in a big way when Fred Warner was down, and they've had Dre Greenlaw. They've had some of those injuries. What kind of role do you expect him to jump into, maybe next to Overshown?
Yeah, Overshown being back and being ready to rock and roll is huge. And then you bring in Winters, who's someone who's incredibly cerebral and smart, sees the game really clearly. You don't become one of the worst defenses in the NFL by accident. Like there's miscommunication, there's busted coverages, busted assignments, and you get guys running free, and there's a lot of explosive plays that you've allowed. This defense is schemed to limit that, and I think the fact that you've added not only so much athleticism to this group, but you've got a lot of intelligent, smart players that can keep those mental mistakes, those mental busts that end up in those big explosive plays. That's going to be huge for this defense. And look, the bar's not super high. Like, they don't have to be a top 5 defense to go on an incredible run into the playoffs and maybe even get to the Super Bowl. They just need to be solid, mediocre even. They'll take that. And it looks so far, at least, there's optimism, as there is in all these camps. But the pads come on today and get a chance to talk to Coach Schottenheimer as well. I'm curious to see how he feels about this new defensive group that they have. But I'm excited, man. First day of pads, and I don't have to get hit. Doesn't get better than that, Rhett.
Always a great deal. No question. But, yeah, you're absolutely right on that defense. I mean, last in scoring defense, last in passing defense, last in third down defense. Let's get back to the middle of the pack and see how far that can take us here, and then take some steps after that. Deej, thanks, bud. Look forward to that conversation with Brian Schottenheimer on the way. So much of that defense now buoyed for Dallas by some former Packers like Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. And now looking at the Packers defense, who will be under the direction of former Cardinals head coach
Something is happening in Dallas, and the Cowboys are not exactly trying to hide it. Stephen Jones tells people to think bigger at linebacker. Jerry Jones starts talking about adding a pass rusher. Then the Cowboys get to Oxnard. Jay-Sean Barham starts making noise. Donovan Ezeraku looks quicker and healthier. And suddenly, Dallas has multiple ways this thing could go. That is what makes this so interesting. The Cowboys could decide the young guys have already given them enough. Or they could look at a defense with real momentum and make one aggressive move that changes the entire ceiling of the team. Jordan Brooks is the first name that keeps coming up. There is no official trade announcement, and nobody should pretend a deal is done, but the conversation makes sense. Miami could be willing to collect premium draft capital, Brooks has a contract another team could absorb, and Dallas still has questions at middle linebacker. Stephen Jones reportedly told people to think bigger than Bobby Wagner. That does not guarantee Brooks is the target, but it absolutely keeps the door open. Brooks next to Barham would give Christian Parker something Dallas has been missing, a reliable veteran who can handle a full workload beside a young linebacker with real physical upside. Barham has already started giving the coaching staff reasons to believe. He's playing fast, he's taking the work seriously. Coaches have talked about how committed he is to football, and when the pads come on, his size and power should become even more obvious. If Barham keeps developing, Dallas may decide it does not need to force a linebacker move. But if Miami is actually willing to listen, the Cowboys still have to make the call. That's the difference between being satisfied and being serious. Then there's Max Crosby. Again, this is not a confirmed Cowboys trade. It is the massive possibility hanging over the entire pass rush conversation. Just imagine the protection problem. Quinnen Williams inside, Rashawn Gary coming off one side, Ezeraku bringing speed, then Crosby lining up wherever Christian Parker wants him. You cannot slide the protection toward everybody. One blocker gets isolated, one matchup breaks, one quarterback starts speeding up his internal clock before the ball is even snapped. Crosby would not simply improve the defense, he would change how every offense prepares for Dallas. But the Cowboys may look at what is already happening in camp and decide the cost is too high. Gary is producing, Ezeraku looks different after getting healthy, Barham is making a strong impression. Other defenders are flashing. Dallas could convince itself that the answers are already in the building. Cowboys fans have heard that before. Sometimes trusting development is smart. Sometimes it becomes an excuse for not finishing the roster. And now another veteran has entered the possible free agent conversation. Darnell Savage is available. There is no confirmed report that Dallas has contacted Savage, and there is no indication that a contract is close. But after his release, the football fit is worth discussing. The Cowboys have dealt with uncertainty and injuries at safety. Savage would bring extensive starting experience, postseason experience, and the ability to play in space. He would not arrive as the biggest name connected to Dallas. That is the point. Crosby would be the blockbuster. Brooks would be the major linebacker upgrade. Savage would be the lower-cost move designed to protect the secondary and give Parker another experienced option. A short-term deal would not stop Caleb Downs from developing. It would not require Dallas to redesign the defense around Savage. It would simply add competition, experience, and insurance to a position where one injury can change everything. Savage has played a lot of NFL football. He understands route combinations, he has experience moving through different coverages, and in a defense built around disguising intentions before the snap, that experience could have value. The question is what Dallas believes it needs. Does this team need the superstar swing with Max Crosby? Does it need the reliable linebacker upgrade with Jordan Brooks? Or does it need a smaller veteran move like Savage while trusting Barham, Gary, and Iziraku to keep growing? The encouraging part is that Dallas may finally have options. The Cowboys are not staring at a defense with no answers. They are watching young players emerge while established veterans create pressure. Christian Parker has pieces he can move around. But this is also the moment when a front office has to recognize opportunity. If Brooks becomes available for the right draft pick, Dallas has to be involved. If Crosby can realistically be acquired without destroying the future, Jerry Jones has to consider it. And if Savage can provide veteran safety depth on a team-friendly deal, that call should be easy to make. This defense is moving in the right direction. Now the Cowboys have to decide whether better is enough, or whether they are ready to build something opponents genuinely fear. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Should Dallas chase the blockbuster, trade for Brooks, or make the quieter move and bring in Darnell Savage?